Lovely weather up there. Anyway, I'll leave you to catch a few more bunker catches, and nice to speak to you. Regards to Linda. M0, and I'm in.
7-3 Dave, thanks very much. 59 plus, no problem at all. Golf Zero, Victor Golf Sierra for bunkers on the air. Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Ian. A while ago there was a Vanners collaboration which discussed the hobbies that motorhomers have outside of motorhoming. And weirdly I've been thinking of something similar for a while, and that collaboration spurred me on to make this video. While I have several hobbies, our main hobby, both myself and Linda, is amateur radio. We're both amateur radio operators, or radio hams as people tend to call us, thanks to Tony Hancock. The first thing people think of when they see an aerial is Citizens Band, CB radio. And I can understand why. It was very big in the 70s and the early 80s. A lot of people had CBs and were able to communicate with each other. There were films about it. But most of those CBs have moved on now to amateur radio. But amateur radio has been around for a long, long time and is very much linked to the hobby of shortwave listening. Amateur radio is one of those strange hobbies that you have to actually take exams for in order to participate. You're fine if you're a shortwave listener, but if you want to get a license and a call sign, then in my day, back in the 90s, I had to take 2 City and Guilds examinations, and then if I wanted to go on the shortwave band, I had to take a 12 words a minute Morse test, both send and receive. These days it's a little easier to get your license. There are 3 license levels: foundation, intermediate and full. The foundation license is quite a basic license, but allows you with limited power to use just about everything that amateur radio has to offer, and believe me, it's a broad church. We use all kinds of forms of communication. We use voice, data, Morse code. Some people bounce signals off the moon or the aurora or meteors, satellites, and there are some bespoke amateur radio satellites up there, and even the International Space Station and the ISS quite often communicates with children in schools using amateur radio. Personally, I like to use voice, Morse code, and sometimes what we call data modes, which use a computer to actually talk across the air to another computer. So why do we do it? Because it's fun. A lot of people say, well, you can use Skype or whatever, but one of the great things about amateur radio is that you've never ever know just what you're going to get. You can turn the radio on one day and have no signal at all. You can turn the radio on another day and you can talk to the other side of the planet. You don't know who you're going to talk to. You don't know who the person is at the other end most of the time. You don't know their abilities. You don't know whether they're sighted, blind, disabled. Sometimes you don't know if they're male or female. It's a really fascinating hobby. I'll put a little video in here of me talking to somebody who was just further south than me. We were at a site up in Cumbria, and I made a contact with this gentleman and had a really nice chat for a while. GM8 DOR G0 VGS portable. Okay, Baz, well, it's fantastic to work you this morning. You're 20 over 9 with me. Very strong signal indeed. And yeah, I'm just looking at the address there, and we're in our motorhome here, so we travel around a bit, and I see in a lot of places around Scotland the phrase "mains of," and I wonder why that is. I wonder if you have a handle on why mains of. We see it in Dumfries and Galloway quite a bit, so I'd be interested in that if you can cast any light on it.
Yeah, mate, yeah, that's all fine.
You'll notice that call signs were used during that. When you get your amateur radio license, you're issued a call sign by the government. Mine is Golf Zero Victor Golf Sierra. You'll also hear us use things like portable or mobile, depending on what it is we're doing. Most of the time when I'm operating from the van, I'm operating what is known as portable. In other words, I'm not at home, I'm elsewhere. I also use Morse code, and I'm nobody's genius with the code. I'm not the fastest in the world, but I do enjoy doing it, and I'll put a little video in now. The other thing you may notice is that there's a computer in front of me, and what I'm doing with the computer, that's attached to the radio and to the internet. And what I'm doing is logging the contacts. So every time I talk to somebody, I log down the times and the date, the power I was using, the station I was contacting, and I get their name and location. Next time, if I catch them again on the air, I've got all that information to hand, and it's really nice to be able to work somebody, as we call it, more than once. You tend to make friends, and you'd be amazed at the amount of people who are into motorhoming and also into amateur radio. We have a little Facebook group called the UK Motorhome and Amateur Radio group. And that's got about 1,300 members, and the vast majority of those are in the UK. They're motorhomers, caravanners, people with camper vans. We've got a narrowboat in there. I think there's the odd tent as well, but people who enjoy camping and amateur radio, there's a lot of us out there, and it's always nice. I remember one particular time when we arrived at Moffat, and we just set up, and I put a small aerial out, and the guy from the next van walked round and said, hello, my call sign is, and he was a radio amateur, just happened to be in the next pitch to us, so that's somebody else I met along the way. I mentioned aerials briefly. I'll put a few pictures up for you. We use various aerials, and necessarily if you're on shortwave, those aerials tend to be quite long. I can use an aerial which is symmetrical, in other words, from the mast it's the same length either side. That's what's known as a dipole. And most of the time I'm chatting on a band called 40 meters, which is 7 megahertz. And so we would tend to use a half wave aerial. So that aerial is going to be 20 meters long, 66 feet. So you can't always put those out, because obviously you have to think about other people on the site, and we always ask permission before we put aerials up. If I can't get that up, then I use something called an end-fed half wave, and what that is the same length of aerial but fed at one end, so it goes up the pole and over to a tree or something like that. If I can't get either of those out, then I can put something more low profile up, and I have a little vertical aerial which all packs down into a tiny case, not much bigger than A4, and I can just literally go outside, stick that in the ground and use that. So why do I enjoy working portable? Well, the major reason for that is noise. At home, with all the current technology, with broadband lines, with all the little charger plugs that we have and various other things, the amount of noise that I pick up on the band is horrendous, and it doesn't make listening or operating on the shortwave bands very pleasant at all. When we go out portable, generally the noise is much less, and that makes talking to people when you're out and about much more pleasurable. And it's really easy to set up when we're in the van, so we can continue our hobby while we're out and about. And finally, why do we do this? Well, we like to talk to other people, but there are other things out there as well. There are things called awards, and they vary. One of the older awards is called Worked All Britain, and that's based on the Ordnance Survey maps, and you try and collect the various squares across the UK. Sugar Delta 45, for example, would be a square that you would collect. That's a 10-kilometre square. And people collect those. Other people activate. I like to activate. I'm not a collector. Parks on the air is another one. Lighthouses on the air is another one. Bunkers on the air. Anything that amateur radio operators can collect, they tend to do. And you get awards for working so many. And some of the awards are charitable and raise awareness of charities. Others are just out there for fun or to make you more active. Parks on the air, for example, some places you have to walk to. There's summits on the air and Wainwrights on the air in the lakes, and you can then be encouraged to walk up the fells and operate from the top of a hill. And we carry much smaller equipment when we do that. So yeah, there's all kinds of aspects to the hobby. I hope you found this interesting, and if anybody's got any questions about amateur radio, feel free to ask. Thanks to all the subscribers as always. Thanks to all the new subscribers. We've had quite a few recently, and we're heading for 300 subscribers on the channel, which is astonishing. Thank you so much. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video, and do leave me a comment. I really enjoy reading your comments. Until the next time, thanks very much for watching. Cheerio.